Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and welcome back to another theory video. Now, with the recent release of the Tears of the Kingdom title trailer, there have been a lot of analysis and theory videos about what might happen in the game and how and what some of the things in the new trailer might mean. And in this video I'd like to talk about my thoughts on who might appear in the game. That being the Seven Sages. Now, the Seven Sages have appeared in several Zelda games, that being Ocarina of Time, A Link Between Worlds, A Link to the Past, and they also made a cameo in, of sorts, in Twilight Princess. And I would really like to think that, and hopefully believe that they are going to make an appearance of some sort in Tears of the Kingdom. Now, for anyone who might not know who the sages are basically a group of people who basically guard over the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, and they are called. And depending on which game you play that has the Seven Sages, they are called to help out the Link throughout the different games. By first Link helping them by clearing a different dungeon, by freeing them and defeating the boss inside, and then they help Link. Give him, depending on which game you're playing again, either the Triforce of Courage itself or sealing away Ganon in the Sacred Realm. And that's basically what they do and how they operate in the games that they appear in. And I would like to think that they would make some kind of appearance again in the Tears of the Kingdom. And it has been a while since we've seen the sages. The last time we did see them was in Twilight Princess, I believe, where we saw a bunch of them talking about Ganondorf and the Mirror of the Twilight, and it was something quite cool to see, seeing the different sages helping out Link throughout his adventure, trying to stop Ganondorf. But there also could be a dark side to this, which I'll talk about later in this video, about how the sages might be used to Ganondorf's advantage. And yeah, that'd be something quite cool to see, and I'll just talk about later. But first, on one I think who the sages might be. So I feel like we might have seen potentially 5 of the sages. One of them being Zelda, because I feel like Zelda has been a sage in pretty much all of the games in which the sages have made an appearance in. So that's kind of a no-brainer, because I feel like with Zelda herself, I feel like once she awakened her powers in Breath of the Wild, she again also awakened to her sort of sage powers, maybe, or awakened as a sage, kind of like how the ones in some of the Zelda games like Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past awakened to their sage abilities and stuff whenever you defeated a particular dungeon. The other 4 are the descendants of the champions. Now, they do have their own kind of abilities. With one being the direct descendant of I think the old descendants, but with the Goron champion descendant, he has the power of Daruk's protection. Another one is a quite skilled archer. One of them is chief of the Gerudo, and I think related to Urbosa, and another one is Mipha's brother. Is Mipha's brother, and I feel like all of those guys, including Zelda, are possibly sages, and I feel like throughout Tears of the Kingdom, they are going to help Link somehow, and then they themselves, excluding Zelda, because Zelda has awakened to her sealing abilities, and I feel like in doing so she awakened to her sage powers and stuff like that. That throughout the course of the game, the 4 other champions, or the 4 champion descendants, are going to awaken to their own sage abilities. And for the other 2 sages, I'm not really 100% sure. Maybe one of them could be a Zonai, maybe, and maybe the other sage could be someone else, maybe a Sheikah, maybe a Yiga member, maybe that'd be something quite cool to see. Maybe a Yiga member who followed Ganondorf, but realized, oh, he's literally going to destroy the whole world, and I don't want that to happen, because I might have like friends or family in the world, and they mean so much to me. Maybe something like that, kind of like in Ocarina of Time, where for the Gerudo Sage, she wanted to go up against Ganondorf. So yeah, and now I'm going to talk about some of the things, how in some of the new trailers and stuff, of how I might feel like the sages might make an appearance in it. So within this screenshot that I took from the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, the most recent one, you can see that there is several. There's basically some sort of big warrior member, maybe it could be a member of the Zonai. Maybe we're not really sure, mainly because we don't really know what the Zonai look like. We've had some descriptions of what they look like, but we haven't really been shown an actual design look. And around this sort of this warrior member of some kind of tribe, maybe the Zonai, maybe you can see what seems to be 7 different droplets, maybe tears, maybe droplets. We're not 100% sure yet, but I feel like these 7 tears or droplets or whatever you want to call them could be representations of the 7 sages, and I feel like that the sages are basically helping this member of this new tribe to seal away Ganondorf, maybe. So maybe that's why Ganondorf's looking all skeletal in the first trailer that we saw of him, where he has the hand on where his hand on his chest, and you can see all the malice just growing out of him, and as well as that sort of green energy spiral kind of twirling around him and going upwards in a sort of sense. And yeah, I would like to feel like that all of these characters, like so the warrior in the middle, as well as the tears or the droplets or whatever, are basically combining powers and sort of giving each other sort of ways of or ideas of how they could stop Ganondorf, and that in turns being the whole skeletal hand malice thing. Maybe we're not too sure yet, and this could be representing the tears could be representing the sort of souls, maybe, and maybe throughout the game, whenever we free a sage from one of the dungeons or from a particular temple, if we see this particular sort of painting drawing thing, we could each of these tiers could potentially light up and saying, okay, you freed another sage, go and find another one. Here's a hint, maybe, but it would probably be pretty vague. And yeah, and I would really like to think that the person in the middle of this cave drawing, it could be a sage, not a sage, a Zonai member, maybe the chief of the Zonai, maybe, and he was the person to rally the sages at the time to stop Ganondorf, maybe that could be when that could be around 10,000 years ago, maybe, when Ganondorf became Calamity Ganon, and the sages as well as the chief of the Zonai couldn't stop him, so that's why he could possibly be in his skeletal form. Maybe that could be something quite interesting, because let's say Calamity Ganon the first time, they both the chief of the Zonai as well as the 7 sages were able to stop him, but just barely. So, and then through the events of the 10,000 years ago to before the events of 100 years ago, let's say some of the events, some of the parts of that kind of got muddled, and some of the things kind of survived through out history. So that being Zelda and Link need to be there to sort of stop Ganondorf in a way, and Maybe, I don't know, as well as the as divine beasts, as well as their champions, and then that could be how Breath of the Wild does that offense, as well as taking parts from history. But I really like to think that the Zonai Chief, and if this is the Zonai Chief, as well as the Seven Stages had some help with Calamity Ganon 10,000 years ago, that would be something quite cool. And now I'm going to talk about how Gandalf could possibly use the Seven Stages to his advantage. So we know from one of the first trailers that we saw of Breath of the Wild 2, or Tears of the Kingdom. I've got to really stop saying that. That Gandalf is going to be the sort of skeletal person, or he's basically skeletal, and the main reason why I think he's going to use the Seven Stages to his advantage is so that he can try and regain his power back. Now, with Gandalf here, he looks skeletal, and then you got the Seven Stages here along with the Chief. But with Link, if you look closely at his hip, where the Sheikah Slate would be if you were playing through Breath of the Wild, you would see these sort of small canister-looking things with, I would say, 4 of them so far being filled up with the sort of strange green energy type of thing. Now, I would like to think that those represent the sages' souls, in the sense that Ganondorf has found a way to separate the sages from their body and soul. Kind of like how Chancellor Cole separated Zelda's spirit from her body in Spirit Tracks. It kind of reminds me of that. And if that is true, I feel like Ganondorf is going to use the souls of the Seven Sages to try and regain his body back and try and gain more power. And then in doing so, he will gain more and more power until he's possibly the strongest being in the world at the time. And I feel like he's gonna separate. I feel like that's why he separated both Link and Zelda away, because if you look at, I think again I think the second trailer, I believe, of Breath of the Wild 2. No, Tears of the Kingdom. I've really got to stop saying that. Breath of the Wild 2. If you look at this, I think one of the second trailers for Tears of the Kingdom, you see that Zelda is falling in a sort of chasm pit area. Now, I would like to think that Ganondorf slightly sensed Zelda's sage power, and he thought, okay, I have one of the Seven Sages with me at the minute. I can try and use her to find those other sages, so then I can take the powers for myself, and I can regain myself back to my full power. I feel like that's going to be useful, and I feel like this is going to be Ganondorf like the one from Ocarina of Time, because even though they're the same, and Ganondorf is the same person throughout all of his appearances in his human form as well as his beast forms in the many Zelda games, I feel like this is going to be the same. Ganondorf is going to use cunning and wits like in Ocarina of Time, like how he used Link to find all of the spiritual stones so that Gandalf himself could go right into the Sacred Realm and take the Triforce for oneself, only to end up having the Triforce of Power. Now, I feel like that could happen. So with Gandalf here, he could find the Seven Sages, separate their souls from their bodies, and split them into 7 different dungeons. Maybe have some of them, let's say 3 of them in Hyrule, 2 of them in the Sky Islands, and 2 of them in the underground chasm area. And I like to think that this is Gandalf, and basically kind of like making Link gather the spirits of the sages himself without having Gandalf do it himself, so that when Link goes to Gandalf for the final confrontation with all the sages' souls, Gandalf will sort of will take the souls for himself, and then as well as Zelda's soul, and then he'll sort of regain his power, and so that'll be sort of like, you know, half and half of Spirit Tracks, with Chancellor Cole taking splitting up Zelda's body from her spirit, as well as Demise taking Zelda's life essence from her to regain his true body in Skyward Sword. It's kind of like that. I would like to see like something like that, and that'd be something quite cool to see, because Gandalf, this will probably be the darkest version of Gandalf ever, just because of how he's able to sort of manipulate things behind the scenes, like how he did with Link in Ocarina of Time, and kind of like how he did with Zant in Twilight Princess. I would like something to see like something like that in this game. Have like how he's manipulating Link into getting the Seven Sages' souls for him, and then he can use them to regain himself back to his original body, where he's at full power, and he can, you know, do Gandalf things like taking over Hyrule. That'd be something quite cool to see. And maybe Gandalf has some power. Maybe he took the soul of if this is the Zonai, if this is the Zonai warrior, or maybe the chief of the Zonai, maybe he took their power or their soul for himself, and maybe he's gained some power back. Maybe he, if this is the Zonai warrior or the Zonai chief, maybe Gandalf somehow took their soul by using the malice somehow. Maybe he manipulated the malice to his advantage to see how Gandalf was able to get some power back, and maybe that's how he became Calamity Ganon. So yeah, so overall, I would say that Ganondorf's return could be his most powerful form yet, because Gandalf, if Gandalf does something similar to this could be the most powerful version of Gandalf we could have ever seen, and that could be something quite cool, and to see like how he can just manipulate everyone to his advantage, and just see how powerful, evil, and manipulative this sort of person can be on this sort of scale. And yeah, I would love to see this happen in the game, or something similar. Maybe half and half. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's my theory on the Seven Sages. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.